Welcome to round 3 of the Allusion Events iCart series. It's finally time for the first oval race of the season. We've rolled into Gateway Motorsports Park ready for 140 laps of action, and we're guaranteed some changes in the championship with our undefeated points leader, a notable absentee for tonight, who will be able to capitalise on his absence and claim the win. All the action being brought to you live here at Performance Stream. As always, I'm Ryan Jones, and joining me up here once again, Mr. Edward Foster.
G'day Ryan, g'day everyone.
G'day, Edward. So, Edward, you keen for this one? First over race of the season?
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. We've been saying all the time, haven't we, about how a diverse skill set's required to win this championship, and we're getting our first real gauge tonight of who's got that diverse skill set to be good on the road courses and the ovals. Of course, this is one of the shorter ovals. I've got some faster ones coming up later on, also street circuit next up in Detroit. So we'll get a bit of an idea who's going to be a factor for the championship here, I think, surely.
Yeah, we certainly will. I'm a little disappointed, though, we're not going to see Gary Hamilton. He's been absolutely dominant from the first 2 rounds of the season, but he's missing tonight. He's away for work. So, we're not quite going to see what he's going to be like, and that was one of the questions I was really excited to see answered, but I think we'll definitely get a gauge on the battle for the rest of the championship, and we might even see a new championship leader tonight, depending on how things play out.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see him. It'd be nice to see Hamilton out here. But as you mentioned in your lead up, it gives somebody else an opportunity to stand up and really put their stamp on the championship, or stamp themselves as a championship contender.
It certainly will. While we're just touching on that championship, we've got a update on the championship points for you. We'll bring it up on the screen here for you guys at home. And Edward, do you want to run us through that championship?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as mentioned, Gary Hamilton, 2 from 2 at the moment, sitting up top on 50 points. In second place, James Foster sitting there on 33. Then we've got Dave Douglas on 22 points, Michael Skurlock on 20, then Chris Purnell, 19, and Ashton Crowder sitting there in sixth position after making a fantastic debut last time out. And then we've got Josh Carroll Walden sitting there equal with Michael Aaron Smith, equal for seventh place. And then we've got Mick Boyce and Sam Katakazinas rounding out your top 10.
Diverse top 10, that one. We've got a diverse range of oval races, road races, and pro drivers. Ashton Crowder, of course, pro driver in the Peak Series. I'm excited to see how he goes tonight as well. Excited to see whether he can translate his stock car speed on an oval into an Indy car on an oval. So that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, he hasn't looked overly fast through practice, but of course it really also depends on whether or not he actually trialled running any laps with qualifying boost as well. So he's yet to put a time down yet in qualifying. We are coming into the last minute and a half. And as things sit, Crowder has not yet set the time. So he may be looking to start from the back of the field, or perhaps he'll pop up a time towards the end of the session.
Yeah, maybe to stay out of trouble early on and get a feel for the car, but of course, right as I said, he sets a time, and it is a very good time, a 24.476, slots him into third place on this grid so far. Currently fastest is Chris Purnell in the Illusion car, and speaking of Illusion, we've got some updates for you on the Illusion paints. They've listened to our struggles up in the booth trying to call their cars on the track, and they've changed their paint jobs for us. They've given some highlights to their cars, so Chris Purnell, the team boss, running the green highlights on his car. We've got Mirko Dornack running orange, Stephen Williams with the blue, Mick Boyce running the base Illusion scheme with no highlights, and then Michael Skurlock running that red scheme. So look out for those different coloured highlights on those Illusion cars today, and excited to be able to actually call the Illusion cars off the top of my head now.
Absolutely. It's going to make it a little bit easier for us here up in the box, and also hopefully a little bit easier for you guys at home to identify all those Allusion Motorsports drivers. But we are coming to the end of qualifying now, so we might just very quickly run through the grid, and it looks as though we've got Chris Purnell sitting there on an excellent pole position, just ahead of his teammate Michael Skurlock, who's going to be joining him on outside of row 1. Then we're looking at row 2, James Foster and Joshua Carroll Walden. Great times there from both of those guys. Then row 3, Ashton Crowder, Mirko Dortnack. Row 4, Mick Boyce and Stephen Williams. And then row 5, Michael Aaron Smith and Bruce Barnes. Row 6, Sam Katakazinas and Dave Douglas. Matthew Clute and Fitzroy Beaumont, that's row 7. And row 8, and the final row tonight, Ryan DeCartier McCarthy and Matt Anton.
super close qualifying. That's what oval racing brings. Very close times. There's less than a tenth of a second covering those top 8 drivers, and only half a second covering the entire field. So it's the closest we've seen this series so far, and it's just another reason why this race is going to be an absolute cracker.
Yeah, should be, should be. So we're going to hope that most of these guys can keep each other out of trouble. It can be a challenge running these wings and slicks race cars on an oval just because of the aero effects that come into play and everything else. Now, it's going to be something new for the guys who've only sort of joined the series and run the road courses and haven't really run on an oval in an IndyCar before. It's going to be something new for them to deal with as well. So, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a learning experience for a few of them, but hopefully we get a nice clean race. And if we do, it should be a very close, action-packed one as well.
Yeah, it should be, and with this IndyCar, how they are designed as well, the draft is extremely prevalent. We've seen it on the road courses, and we'll see it even more so on the ovals tonight. On the straights, it's going to be fantastic. Drivers are going to absolutely love it. But when they get to the corners, they're going to get a whole bucket of aero understeer from that car.
Yeah, very much the dependent on the aero. So there is a technique that you're going to see the good guys using, just line wise through the corners when they are trying to follow somebody else. And the other difference here tonight is they got no push to passes on the ovals either. They're solely reliant on that draft and their driving skill to actually get any moves done.
Yeah, they are, and I think we're going to see an interesting battle with the drivers here, trying to place their cars in the right spots on the track, trying to take a line that isn't taken by a car in front of them, just to get some clean air onto their car, keep their cars cool, and keep themselves out of trouble, because it's incredibly easy once you get some of that air understeer just to wash up into the fence and ruin your night.
Yeah, absolutely, certainly is. And with the big wings that they run here, you'll notice when we get to the faster ovals like Indianapolis, for example, they run much smaller wings. And even with those, the aero push is quite prevalent. So the way that they're running them here with the high downforce package, it is a shorter oval here, of course, the effect is going to be even more pronounced. So definitely something for these guys to battle with. And you may even find that guys who try to stick too close to the car in front for too long actually wear those tyres out a little bit faster as well. So there's also that to contend with.
So many questions going to be answered tonight. Who is going to stand up as the man to be on the ovals? Who's going to make the biggest... I can't get the words out tonight. Who's going to take advantage of Gary Hamilton not being with us today as the pace car peels off out of 4? Questions going to be answered very shortly as Chris Burnell hits the throttle and gets going. We're underway at Gateway Motorsports Park, and it's a good start from Purnell and Skolak off the front row. It's going to be side by side from there on back as Carol Walden tries to get around the outside of James Foster and gets loose and goes around and contact, and Mirko Dornak's involved as well. Carol Walden's gone up on his roof. Someone else in the back's gone in too. Bruce Barnes, Matt Anton, the other 2 cars involved. That's not a good start for those 4 drivers.
Yeah, it's a huge shame. It looks as though Carol Walden's just got himself loose as he's tried to hold on to that high line to try and put some pressure onto James Foster. And unfortunately, it's... Yeah, just he's got tagged in the rear as well by that Allusion cars also. So unfortunate that those two have come together. I don't think there was a great deal Mirko Dortnak could do about that one. And unfortunately, it's taken a couple of other cars as well. There was a car right up the back of the field that's gone charging in there and has actually managed to drive straight into the accident himself. So big damage for those guys. I don't think we're going to see those drivers have too much else to do tonight. I think there's going to be too much damage for them.
Yeah, that's a big shame for those drivers. Some of those guys I expected to be right up the front in this one. Stephen Williams actually got a bit of that crash as well, which I didn't quite see. So he's got big damage at his nose cone as well. He just clipped Carol Walden as he was having contact with Mirko Dortnak. And as you mentioned, that car back in the pack as well. That's a big shame to see him come barreling in there. I'm not quite sure who that was. It might have been Bruce Barnes.
Yeah, Bruce Barnes is running the red paint scheme. He was definitely involved. Ashton Crowder was involved. Matt Anton, I think, was the one that really hit that accident at full speed, starting from the back of the grid as he did. And, of course, Josh Carroll Walden, Mirko Dortnak, I guess, involved at the very beginning of that one. So we've lost 3 cars already. And it looks as though Crowder has managed to get some repairs done and come back onto the track. I'm not sure if he was involved in that accident or not. He certainly came down the pit lane. Um, just going to have a look. Yeah, he definitely was. He broke off his front wing, but it looks as though the damage not too significant for Crowder.
That'd be good news for Crowder, but unfortunately, these Indy cars are so reliant on aero that as soon as you get a little piece of damage, especially on the ovals, it really hurts your chances of getting a good top finish unless there's absolute carnage in this race. And just touching on that Matt Anton there, barreling in, he did actually slow the car down, and interestingly, right in the middle of the corner after the wreck was well and truly underway, he sort of just drifted up the track. So that's an unfortunate. Maybe he got caught a bit staring at that wreck and not really paying attention to where he was going, too focused on those cars crashing in front of him, and unfortunately does got himself involved in that crash. But don't think he would have damaged anyone else more than they would have been already. So no no penalty for Anton there, just an unfortunate incident for him. Unfortunate for Dortmund, Barnes, Carl Walden. Hopefully we can get more than 2 corners out of the this next restart, eh?
Yeah, well, hopefully that's allowed a few of the jitters to get under control. I mean, I don't necessarily think that it was any type of issue with Carol Walden trying to, he didn't. It wasn't as though he's gone diving in there trying to be too aggressive too early. He was just quite simply trying to hold his line on cold tyres, and managed to loop it, unfortunately. So it's just one of those things. And hopefully these guys now have got a little bit of temperature in their tyres. They've done one start. They know how the cars are going to react, and hopefully we're able to see them hang on to it from here.
Yeah, going to be interesting. I didn't get a chance to ask you before the race. Don't know if your predictions may have changed based off that first crash, but who have you got for this race? Who do you think is going to stand up?
Well, it's difficult. I would expect to see the victory go to either Purnell or Skurlock. They do so much oval racing. That'd be very difficult to say that anybody's going to come up and beat them. Certainly through practice, it hasn't looked like that. I would have put Doubtnack in that trio as well. He was showing some really good pace throughout practice, but keep an eye on Foster as well. He's been up there throughout practice. He's more of a road racer, as we know, but he's up there in P3 at the moment, qualified very well, so he could be a thorn in their side.
Yeah, James Foster. He was that guy that got really close to Gary Hamilton last time out. Really made that step up after Coda and brought his A game and almost challenged Hamilton for the win. So I think we're going to see a good battle from Foster here. Looks like he's put a lot of time into the series to be competitive. So I'm expecting him to be at the front end all race long. And as you mentioned, Chris Purnell, he's going to be hard to pass. He's very experienced in the Indy cars. Helped set the league up, of course, so he's certainly handy in one of these things. So look out for Chris and for Purnell and Foster this one, I reckon.
And not only that, I can tell you from experience, he's one of the hardest blokes to pass on an oval as well. So, it'll be, if anybody actually gets up and tries to take that lead away from him, even a teammate, I'd expect to see some fairly vicious defence going on.
Well, we're going to see a restart here in the IndyCar Series. First restart in the iCart Series, of course. IndyCars use a single file restart, not double file, and they will get going there as Chris Purnell and Michael Skolak have a good jump there. Not a fantastic jump for the third place car. Further back, almost looking to go too wide, was Dave Douglas, but no dice there. Making their way through turns 1 and 2. It looks like it's going to be all clean this time by. We've made it further than the first time.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised to say that those two Illusion cars were actually communicating on the start there. They seem to get the throttle down at exactly the same point, but they've managed to stretch out a reasonably good lead, and Foster just sitting in there in third place, being a little bit of a thorn in the side, preventing them from having the 1-2-3 at the moment. But Foster coming under a little bit of pressure from Boyce early on, but those top five seem to have just cleared out from the rest of the pack. A little bit of a gap now back to Smith, Douglas, Katakazinas and co.
Yeah, McLaren Smith running that Haas paint scheme there, the Rich Energy. Not going to touch on that sponsorship drama. He's just peeled away, opened up a gap there as we see the effect. As soon as Dave Douglas was taken 2 over, Sam Katakazinas, we got there, he was really struggling for speed. And that's the issue with these oval racing and these high downforce cars. As soon as you get side by side, you lose a lot of momentum. You can't take the third line through the corner, and you're really going to lose out to cars in front and cars behind.
Yeah, as we mentioned at the top of the show, they're very, very aero sensitive, and it looks now as if the top three have really starting to break away. Purnell, Skurlock and Foster running a bit of a gap of around about 1 second over the fourth place with Boyce Twos. Leading a little pack of his own, seems to just be falling back towards Smith a little bit. Right now we've got Douglas versus Katakazinas. Katakazinas looking down the inside of Dave Douglas. and looking to get that move done, actually. I didn't think Free would get it done from where he was, but it looks as though he's slipped it down the inside there and actually got that done, although Douglas has managed to carry some momentum off that higher line, just the way he does in the stock car, and managing to... Oh, he's actually been
Oh,
tagged. He's been tagged by Katakazinas, and he's gone over and over and over and over and out for Dave Douglas, sadly.
oh, that's a huge shame for Douglas. He's a very good racer, very clean racer. He would have been in there at the end. Unfortunately, it looks like Katexidis has got a wall of understeer mid-corner there, probably a result of following Michael Aaron Smith through the corner. And unfortunately, he's just washed up into Dave Douglas, and there's nothing Douglas can do in that scenario. He left plenty of room for Katakazinas. And sometimes that's just the way it goes in oval racing. It's very hard to keep it out of trouble sometimes, and unfortunately for Douglas, that is going to be race done for sure.
Yeah, certainly. It looks as though, as you've called it, Ryan, that Katakazinas had just washed up into Douglas, and not really anything that Douglas is able to do about that, and he found himself straight at the scene of the accident. So it's going to be a very, very long repair job on that particular vehicle, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him actually take that car behind the wall and play no further part. But we've got a little bit of an idea of the lay of the land so far as pace goes. Purnell, Skurlock and Foster appear to have superior pace to everyone behind them, although I'll be interested to see if anyone like Crowder or perhaps Beaumont, who's quite fast in practice, manages to work their way through the pack and actually come up and challenge that top three.
Yeah, it's going to be very hard to pass this Illusion, guys. They're going to work together all race long, but I do know there's a bit of a rivalry going on intra-team with Illusion Motorsports. They're all desperate to beat each other. They're all desperate to beat team boss Chris Purnell. So when we get down to the business end of this race, I expect we'll see those guys battle it out for the win as hard as anyone else. But early stages, middle stages of these races, they'll definitely work together as a team to see Chris Purnell. A good pit stop, going to lead them out. Top 3 going to remain unchanged. Top 4, top 5 remains unchanged. Pretty good pit stops all the way down the field there.
Yeah, I was surprised to see these guys actually come down the lane quite so early. I know in stock cars it's fairly commonplace because you have a fairly high drop-off in your tyre performance, but the Indy cars never really struck me as being something that wears off its tyres that quickly. So perhaps these guys were starting to feel a little bit of tyre wear. It looks as though everybody was coming down the pit lane, so they must all be feeling it. So yeah, a bit of a surprise, but gives us a little bit of an idea about how the tyre wear is actually going out there tonight. And of course, they've all topped off with fuel as well.
We've heard from some of the drivers what they sort of expect for a fuel window in this race. We heard a tentative figure, and they're not 100% certain, a tentative figure of 30 to 35 laps. If we get that far without a caution, of course, if a caution comes out, we've seen already they're going to come in after 10 or so laps, get those fresh tyres on, get the fuel back in their car. Very fast pit stops in the car, of course. Tyres done at the same time as fuel, so it doesn't take too long to get these stops done. And if we do stay green, 30 to 35 laps, look out for that pit window. So if it was a green race, about 4-stop race. But I dare say we may get a few cautions tonight, which may make it pretty simple for strategy. Pit when there's a caution.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, there's only so many cautions we can get. We'll run out of race cars at some stage, but yeah, hopefully not. We're on lap 13 at the moment, under caution of 140, so there's certainly a long way to go. But these guys will hopefully just be able to settle down and give us some green flag racing from here on.
Well, we have seen Skurlock and Foster right in behind Chris Purnell, unable to get close to Purnell and unable to get close to that car in front. It does already look to be quite difficult to follow a car. We've seen that with Katakazinas hitting that wall of understeer behind Mick Boyce. Sorry, Michael Aaron Smith. And, you know, it's going to make it difficult. You're going to wear out those front tyres. You're going to wear out everything. The only good thing about following another car is, A, the draft on that main straight allows you to close up again. But you can save a lot of fuel being in the draft of someone else. And we could see that make a play in the strategy tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that that they'll definitely be thinking about as the pace car lights go off. Of course, in the cars as well, they've got the ability to change the engine map, so they can choose how much fuel they're actually using. But of course, when you put the engine map down, your fuel use gets better, but of course, it costs you some pace. So I wouldn't be expecting too many guys to actually take it off the one setting, which is the flat out setting, especially early on in the run when they're still under pressure from cars behind, because that would just cause them to drop back through the pack.
Yeah, you've got to be really careful when you play with the settings on these cars. It can upset the balance of the cars as well sometimes. And yeah, as you mentioned, you don't want to be using or changing those fuel map settings when you're in a battle because it's really going to hurt you. But as you mentioned, pace car lights are off. It's going to peel away off turn 4 with a single file restart. We see the Illusion boys time this one again. You take us to the restart here.
Absolutely, I can almost guarantee they will. So it's going to be Purnell's choice. They're sitting right up high at the moment. Everybody running the same sort of line. Nobody wanting to be a pioneer. But Purnell goes, and he actually hasn't. Skurlock hasn't really gone with him, which has allowed Foster and Boyce to stay right up behind him. Purnell has just gapped everyone. He crosses the line 0.6 of a second ahead of anybody else. So he's certainly got a great getaway there, and that's left his teammate Skurlock really under fire from Foster, Boyce, and Michael Aaron Smith as those four settle in together. Everybody stretched out single file at the moment. I can't see too much going on in the way of overtaking moves, which may give us a little bit of green flag racing. Maybe they're going to look to settle down, get their tyres back up to pressure and everything before they try and do anything fancy and advance their position.
Yeah, good restart for Chris Purnell. Timed it very well indeed. Now Michael Scott starting to open up a gap back to James Foster. I'm paying close attention to Sam Katakazina's back on the pack to see whether he's got much damage or any damage at all from that contact with Dave Douglas, as we just see a move there from Matthew Clute, trying to go up the inside of Aaron Smith, unable to complete it, now going to lose out to Ashton Crowder, going to go up the inside as they head down to turn number 1 in Katakazina's with a big draft as well, getting close up, but nowhere to go for him as Crowder completes the move, slides up in front of Matthew Clute, and a fantastic move completed there for Crowder, showing his class early on.
Yeah, it kind of really cost Clute having a go there because it really looked as though he, for a moment, had the move done on Smith. And then he wasn't able to complete it. And the momentum that he's lost from trying to run that low line there has put him in behind Crowder. But he appears to be catching back up again, just running a little bit of a different line. I wouldn't be surprised to see Clute have a go at Crowder here. And he's looking at it. He's in the draft. Is he going to pull out and have a go? Not quite yet. It looks like he's just still quite sizing him up. But of course, if he messes up again, he's got Katakazinas there ready to pounce and take the position. As we look at Crowder now, having a look at Smith. He's just jumped down the inside of Smith. Is he going to get that move done? And it looks as though he does quite cleanly, actually. Smith looking to come back on him. Has he got the momentum? Doesn't look like he does at this stage.
Good battling from these drivers, racing hard and clean so far. While we were just talking about those guys, Michael Scott got very close to the back of his teammate Chris Purnell, forced him to go a bit defensive into turn number 1. So Purnell looking in his mirrors, feeling the pressure from his teammate Skurlock, who's just edging closer once again. He dropped off a little bit when he got right up behind him, and he's still there as the caution comes out.
Yeah, who was that? Who has brought that one out?
It was those boys we were just talking about, and oh, that's poor. Fitzroy Beaumont came in super late. Caution was already out, and he's collected one of the drivers. He's collected the blue highlight. He's collected Matthew Clute. So that's disappointing, but it was Matthew Clute. It was Michael Aaron Smith, and it was Stephen Williams as well, who got involved in a big crash there coming through turn number 1.
Clute's had a really hard run so far in this series. He's been the first retirement in the first 2 rounds, and now he finds himself tidied up again in an accident. And as we say, we just saw that third car come in there and drive straight into that accident. So I was just going to say as well, just regarding Purnell and Skurlock, that they did come together in one of the earlier races in Ann's car this year. So it wouldn't be the first time those guys crashed into each other while battling for the lead. So they'll be hoping not for a repeat of that, but definitely they're having a better night than Clute is at the moment as he rolls into the pit lane. Looks as though Stephen Williams involved in that one as well, unfortunately. So, yeah, disappointing night for those guys.
Yeah, it looks like Matthew Clute tried to get the move on Ashton Crowder entering turn 1. Suffered a bout of understeer, much like we saw from from Sam Katakzinas earlier on as well. Washed up into the side of Michael Aaron Smith, both of them up into the wall. Steve Williams, really unlucky. Looks like he committed to the high line coming into the corner. Those guys started wrecking, and he just could not get the car back down the track quick enough. Unfortunate for him, it was in fact him that got cleaned up by Fitzroy Beaumont very late on in the incident. So that's 4 more cars suffering damage for the third caution of the night.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a rough start, hasn't it?
Well, it was either going to be I thought entering this race it was either going to be an absolute caution fest or an absolutely beautiful green flag race. It looks like for the early parts we're going to get a few cautions. A lot of drivers struggling to come to terms with the understeer. It seems to be the crux of the problems for these drivers. They're not adapting to that understeer, trying to make moves on the inside, just washing up into the car on the outside, and a bit of inexperience. I'll put that one down to for Catechizidis and Matthew Clerk there.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's a car that we don't in Australia get too much of an opportunity to run. The races in our time zones in iRacing don't normally go official, so we don't get too much of an opportunity to actually experience this. But a few of those guys out there, they probably had an opportunity now, run a few laps. Everybody but Purnell has run behind another car, so hopefully they've got a little bit of an understanding now of how the cars are actually going to behave, and they can account for it. It's a long race, long way to go.
Yeah, long way to go. Lap 23 of 140. Absolutely plenty of time for these drivers to get these cars sorted out. I am interested to see how this battle unfolds between Skurlock and Purnell. We've seen them get close together already. We've seen them make contact earlier in the season, as you mentioned, in Ann's car. And I'm interested to see what happens if Purnell does drop behind Skurlock. How quickly does he adapt to the aero understeer there effect that he's going to get for sure? Will we see a mistake from Purnell exiting the pits? We've seen it the last two races. I know he's worked hard on his exits, so hopefully for his sake, he can get those pits right this time around.
Yeah, I mean, the way things are going, we might not get any green flag stops to worry about. So, but yeah, a lot of drivers actually reporting that the pit lane on the way in and the way out is incredibly slippery. So, I would expect to see some issues there should we arrive at a point where we're having pit stops under green.
Yeah, Gatwick Motorsport Park does have quite a narrow pit entry and pit exit line, and and the way the short track works is a lot of turning input you've got to put into these cars, which makes it tricky in any car. But in an Indy car, with the amount of horsepower these things have, the amount of torque these things have, very, very twitchy. Any sort of bump can really unsettle the car, which does make it very difficult for these guys.
Yeah, certainly does. So it's going to be something to watch out for. Maybe later on in this one when we get some green flag pit stops in. See, I can guarantee you someone's going to make the mistake, and hopefully it's not something that really costs them too badly in the race. But hopefully they've all practiced it throughout practice because it's definitely been a focus point for those guys. So hopefully, much better to come off and give away half a second or so coming off the pit road than give away 20 by spinning out.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to sacrifice a bit to gain in the long run. It looks like Aaron Smith has escaped too much damage. He's going to line up back in 8th place. We've got just 9 cars on the lead lap looking to get this restart. So the field is condensed massively already, which is a bit of a shame for this one. Hopefully it does when we get some green flag running, though. I do believe lights may be out in the pace car, as they are indeed. They'll line up on the high side, looking to get that run down the main straight, as always. Purnell, will he time his restart with Skurlock? Will he leave Skurlock in the dust? Looking for the green flag for the 4th time today. Pace car peels off. Purnell waits a bit longer than normal. Now he goes. Skurlock does go with him. James Foster under pressure from Mick Boyst.
Yeah, under pressure straight away. It looks as though Skurlock got away much better on that particular occasion. And we've seen that Boyce has had reasonably good short run pace so far. He's managed to give Foster a little bit of curry on each of the restarts, but then sort of drops away as the tyres come up the temperature and everything else. But Purnell leading as he has done from the beginning of this race. And he's got, of course, the luxury of being able to choose his line as well, doesn't he? He can run anywhere on the track that he wants to run, anywhere that he thinks is going to be fastest. He doesn't have to worry about the wake from anybody else. And, of course, if the race lasts long enough under green that he gets around to lapping people, then that may be something that he has to contend with. But at the moment, he is free and clear.
Yep, and the top 7 or 8 cars, all top 6 cars, very close together on the track right now. Just 1.1 seconds covering the top 6 guys. The last time by on this restart, 7th place has dropped off a bit. That is Cartier McCarthy making his debut, I believe, in the series, as my voice just goes back to the early 2000s there.
Yeah, puberty strikes at the absolute worst moments, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. I'm getting there. I've nearly lost all the voice cracks. But you passed that stage a long time ago, Edward, as we see Mick Boyst back around the outside of Crowder, up the inside of Foster. That was a very slick move from Boyst. He was under pressure from Crowder up the inside. Got back around the outside, up the inside of Mick Boyst. He's gone. No, he's got into the side of him. And involved as well is Sam Catechizidis. Heavy contact into the inside wall. James Foster, a fantastic save, in fact. He's held onto it. What a save.
What a save, but he's going to have to come down the pit road to get that front wing repaired. Absolutely. It's a bit unfortunate for him. You could almost see that accident coming a mile off, couldn't you? You
Yep.
could just see Boyce's car just wandering up the track a little bit like so many have before him, and just gave Foster the slightest of touches in the rear, but certainly came off a little bit worse. But I'm not sure how much damage Boyce has got. I can see, yeah, he has got a damaged front wing. That inside is really poking all the way up in the air there. James Foster has got damage on that front wing as well. Hopefully for both of those guys, it's just a front wing change and there's no further damage to either of those vehicles. But and we did see Katakazinas crash out, didn't we? And he's got very heavy damage. He's missing a whole lot of that car. And it's unfortunate because he wasn't really at the starting point of that one. It looks as though he was just somebody who arrived at the scene of that accident at the wrong time, trying to make a little bit of ground. I think he saw an opportunity there when those two guys got together that they were going to slow each other up. And it looks as though, quite strangely, that Michael Aaron Smith has actually gone into the wall completely in sympathy for the others on his own.
Let me just go have a look at what Smith has done there. He's ended a turn 1, turn 2. Oh, no, Smith, what have you done? Caution was out. He's come off turn 2. Looks like he's got on the power a bit too eagerly. Car's gone around hard into the outside fence, done a pirouette on the track. I think that was actually the reason for the caution, because Katakazinas was actually off the track. Quite to the contrary to Katakazinas trying to make up some ground without contact. Alongside him was Ashton Crowder. Crowder used his experience, laid off the throttle, and avoided that crash. So great heads-up driving from the Crowder, who now finds himself in 3rd place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just having a look at the stops of some of the guys who actually needed repairs there. James Foster, just a very quick front wing change there. So good news for him. He's only lost the 1 position. Well, I mean, he maintained. He came in 4th. He's come out in 4th. So, or has he come out? Is there another car up there? He's come out in 5th, I believe. So, yep, so just wait for those positions to reset. There definitely are a few guys still down there in the pit lane. Mick Boyce is back on track as well. His car looks absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever. See what the steering's like, but he looks okay. And unfortunately, out of that one, we've got Katakazina still sitting on the pit lane, but everybody else has come back out and rejoined the field.
Yeah, Foster is in fact still in 4th place. That car up ahead of Chris Purnell that you can see is Matthew Clowett. He is 5 laps down in this race, continuing his wretched run in this series. I'm sure his luck will turn around at some point. It generally always does. But yeah, hopefully for Foster, no damage. He did give that wall a bit of a whack with the right rear as he was saving that. So hopefully that hasn't thrown out the geometry of the car, which can hurt your speed quite a bit. For his sake and for the sake of the race, let's hope he's got no damage. And Mick Boyce looks like he should be alright with a front wing change. Katakazinas, yeah, I don't think we're going to see him for the rest of this race, or not for a very long time indeed, because that was a big impact with that inside wall. And same goes for Aaron Smith.
Kloot's going to get a lap back as well here. He sat in front of the leaders there, so he's going to be able to get one of those laps back. And if we keep getting racing like this, he may be able to pick his spot back up. But yeah, as you mentioned, James did get a piece of that outside wall there. Great save though, considering how edgy these wings and slicks cars are in a slide. They really don't like it at all. So to hang on to it was a fairly skillful piece of driving. So you come away with as little damage as he actually did.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant driving. You get a tap in the left rear on an oval, and any car, doesn't matter what car it is, you go on for all money 9 times out of 10. And thankfully for Foster, it's that 1 out of 10 time today. We've got 7 cars left running on the lead lap. The 8th car on track is Matthew Clue, who will get his lap back now. The field sitting down, it really is. Hopefully we can get some green flag running in here and get going towards the end of this race.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see as well that a lot of the guys who are sort of suffering tonight, who have dropped out of the race, I mean, let's have a look at them. We had Matthew Kloot, who was involved in that incident earlier on. He's 5 laps down. He is still running, though. And then we've got Steve Williams out of the race. I believe he's out of the race. He's sat there 10 laps down at the moment. Dave Douglas, he's definitely out. Josh Carroll Walden, definitely out. Bruce Barnes and Matt Anton's there as well, but Mirko Dutnak. So many of those guys are oval track regulars. So,
Yeah.
so surprised to see that they've been the ones to drop out. Of course, we've got plenty of oval track regulars at the front as well, but a lot of these guys who you'd expect to be able to sort of read the race have found themselves in incidents, which is really unfortunate.
It is, but for a majority of those guys, just innocent bystanders getting collected by a car on the inside. So not much you can do in those scenarios. Katakazines is definitely tough in this race as well. As we look to go green once again, and it's all steady as she goes to Chris Purnell. Simple restart, holding off Michael Skurlock, who's quite close to him, in fact. He's had a fantastic restart as Michael Skurlock. Bit of a gap back to Ashton Crowder, James Foster. Fitzroy Beaumont finds himself up in 6th place from 14th on the grid. He's had a fantastic one. So is McCarthy. He went up from 15th to 5th. So some big moves in this field, staying out of trouble.
Yeah, these top four just seem to have the pace on everybody else, don't they? They're just clearing out. We saw that earlier on. There's always been sort of this little group at the front that seems to be leaving everyone else behind. And just as Skurlock's just having a little nibble at the back of his teammate there, I don't think he's going to be too worried about taking the lead away just yet. We are still quite early in this race. We've still got over 100 laps to go. So as Purnell just switches to the inside there just to try and probably just tell Skurlock, no, this is my line, don't even think about it, sunshine. But that, of course, is... Oh, we're on a caution again. Imagine that.
Mick Boyce and the blue car of Fitzroy Beaumont. I was just going to mention that they had exchange positions down the back straight away. I clicked off them. What happens? Into the corner goes Mick Boyce, loses it mid-corner. Beaumont was not involved, so I do apologise to any Beaumont fans out there. He just missed it, but interesting one for Boyce, so maybe just hit a bump or something, because he's gone into the corner, he's got it stopped, he's turned in, and the car has just absolutely stepped out on him, and up into the outside wall, the back of the car, and around she goes, caution out.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think Fitzroy Beaumont actually did get a piece of that as well. He's got a broken front wing, so only a tiny piece of it, but he has got a piece of it, and he is coming into the pits for some repairs. But I think that's going to be the last we may see of Boyce, unless he decides to take a lot of repairs. That thing had about 45 degrees worth of tow out on it, and it's not looking too healthy whatsoever. So being in the walls a little bit tonight. And now we've only got, after Boyce goes a lap down, we're probably going to be left with 6 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, Beaumont, I did see what happened to Beaumont now. I did call it correctly in the first place. Just clipped the front wing of Mick Boyce as he went by him, and he understeered up into the wall, and he's got big steering damage. What has happened to Chris Purnell?
He's just come into the box. He's just boxed, that's all.
Alright. Purnell's boxed. He's gone back to 5th place. To be honest with you, that's probably a good call. You've got to feel out some of these tyres. He's going to be well aware of how many cars are left in this race. Beaumont's got nothing. Boyce has got nothing. Klute's 5 laps down. So by pitting, he goes back just to 5th place. And will probably find on his fresh tyres, he's going to be able to pass everyone pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to have that grip advantage, isn't he? But look at what's happened tonight. Just about every single time anybody's attempted any kind of overtaking manoeuvre, we've seen a wreck. So is that going to be different for Purnell because he's on fresh tyres? You know, what is that actually going to mean for him? So it's a little bit of a question mark, but I think it's probably a good idea to perhaps drop back in the pack a little bit, get a bit of an idea about how the car's going to handle in the pack. He hasn't had to contend with that as yet, and just see what the difference is between new tyres and old when you're running in a pack. So a little bit of a learning exercise for Chris Purnell at the moment, I think.
Yeah, I'm just watching Fitzroy Beaumont, and unless my racing is just throwing curveballs at me, it looks like he's got a whole bunch of steering damage still on that car. He's trying to keep himself in the lead lap, I suspect, but I dare say with that steering damage, he's going to have a lot of repairs still left on this car, and we'll see him drop a lap down.
Yeah, it's looking pretty ugly, isn't it? I thought he only got away with a snapped front wing, but that's definitely more fundamental, the damage that he's running there. The front end is all screwed up, and I don't think that's necessarily going to be something he's going to be able to repair. I remember getting similar sort of damage in this car once, and the mechanics can sort of fix it to a point, but they can't make it perfect. So he's going to be fighting a little bit of right or left hand down all race from here on.
Big shame for Beaumont. I've got a question for you, Edward. What happens if the top 5 wreck here?
Well, if the top 5 wreck here, I would like to be Fitzroy Beaumont.
You certainly would. It'll be an interesting race to call if it does happen. I pray to the gods that we do not see the remaining 5 cars take damage, because that would Bit of a damper on this race, I dare say. But I've got full faith in the ability of these remaining 5 drivers. They're all super talented. I say that. I do not know about Cartier McCarthy. I've no doubt he's probably very talented, but I don't know about you, Edward, but I've never seen McCarthy out on the racetrack before.
Well, I know a little bit. I know a little bit about Ryan because he's actually a teammate of mine. We ran together in the Indy 500, and he was in the second split of that particular race, the Majors Indy 500. He's also done quite a bit of road racing in his time, but he's quite new to the ovals. This is only really his third or fourth oval race. He's done a little bit of stock cars or something like that as well. So yeah, he's had a bit of experience in the IndyCar, but not a huge amount. So I imagine he'll be looking to just stay out of trouble, and don't expect him to put up a massive fight if Purnell goes for a look down his inside. I believe he'll want to stay well out of it.
Well, he's doing alright so far. He's surrounded by a wealth of talent in that top 5 as Skurlock will take the restart for the first time today. Crowder's looking to the inside. He wants to get a good start, but he's not going to get one. Skurlock gaps him down the main straight, and Foster's all over the back of Ashton Crowder now. McCarthy and Chris Purnell. Pretty decent gap between them as Foster looked to the inside in turn 1, unable to take momentum and take the move on Crowder. And Skurlock going to be loving this in his mirror.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Foster's taken a look down the inside there, but crucially, he hasn't fallen into the trap that a lot of the guys have fallen into so far and washed up into the sour side of Crowder at all, or run up into the wall. So that's gone okay. Fairly safe restart for those 3. Top 3 clearing out as predicted. Purnell has sent one straight down the inside of Ducati and McCarthy, taken over that 4th position. Ryan not looking to fight him too much whatsoever. He's in a solid 5th place. He's going to be very, very happy with that. Fitzroy Beaumont is coming off of pit lane again as we speak, but Skurlock leading this one quite comfortably at the minute as this top 3 blitz away from the rest of the field. But we'll keep an eye on the time gap between Purnell and the rest of them, of course, now with him on those fresh tyres.
Last time by for Purnell, only a 25.0. Slowest car in that top 4 pack, so that's an interesting one.
Yeah, but remember, he had to put that move on McCarthy as well. So, there was a little bit of offline running there. This will be the more telling lap to see if he's able to bring that lap down to his teammate. Skurlock already feeling the need to try and break the draft of Crowder there. Not sure how much that's actually done, but he certainly felt the need to do that as these top 2 just appear to have broken away from Foster a little bit.
Top 3 all faster than Chris Purnell last time by, so yeah. Maybe not a fantastic strategy for Purnell, or maybe he's just saving his tyres, recognising that with 5 cars on the lead lap, we're probably not going to see another caution in this one. So
yeah, there's fuel in it as well, don't forget. He's filled up with fuel, so his car's going to be heavier. We'll see what happens when the fuel starts to burn off as well.
Here comes Crowder, looking right in behind Skurlock, not going to go for the move. He wants to time this one right. He does not want to cause an incident between these 2. There's absolutely no need for it. But he's right there. He's certainly close enough, and Skurlock is feeling the heat from the peak antifreeze driver right now.
Yeah, and interestingly, Skurlock's not trying to break the draft anymore. He was a couple of laps ago when the gap was much further. But not feeling the need to do that. Crowder does look down to the inside. Has he got a bit of overlap there on Skurlock? He has, and it looks as though Skurlock's just let him go there, and he's quite happy to just slot into 2nd place rather than lose a whole lot of time fighting.
New leader Ashton Crowder will Skurlock look back to the inside. He had a bit of a run, but he's just lifted off the gas and allowed Crowder to comfortably take that spot away from him now. Just playing the long game right now. It's lap 45 of 140 here at Gateway Motorsports Park, and the top 3 locked in battle right now. Bit of a gap back to Chris Purnell, who's still lapping about 2 or 3 tenths of the lap slower than those leaders right now. And 5th place, Ducati and McCarthy, about 5.5 seconds off the lead right now.
Absolutely, and Purnell did actually gain a little bit on those last couple of laps, but he's fallen back again now. He's fallen back to 2.9 seconds off the back. It could be because these guys are running in a bit of a draft together as well, and combined with the heavy fuel and so on. But it looks like Fitzroy Beaumont, he is coming off pit lane again. Just got a bit more of that damage fixed. But Matthew Clute, he's still out there. He's 5 laps down, but he's making up positions on everybody else who's struck trouble. So he's still out there, still running. Car looks like a straight. He should be on for a decent finish tonight if he can hold it together.
Yeah, all he's got to do is finish this race. We'll get a top 10 for sure. Beaumont, interesting strategy. It looks like he's pitting every lap, coming in and out of the pits, trying to get that damage repaired. He's probably going to be better off just staying in the pits and getting it repaired. He's not going to he's probably wasting more time coming in and out of this pit lane than he would do just staying in the lane and getting that damage repaired. So probably a bit of a misplay from Beaumont there, but not going to cost him too much. Is not got too much competition around him. Yeah, Matthew Clute, as you mentioned. Car looking straight. He's looking comfortable right now. Crowder, he's not put too much of a gap on Michael Skurlock. And same goes for Skurlock back to Foster. They're all pretty close on pace right now, these top three.
Yeah, they're actually having a really good run, these top three, aren't they? And they're just kind of keeping that gap around about the same to Chris Purnell. And it appears as though perhaps Crowder and Skurlock have got slightly more pace than Foster. They're just catching up to the back of Clute there. Looks as like Clute's going to let all of them go by, which is sensible from him. But looks as though those top two have got a little bit more pace than Foster in third at the moment. Of course, Foster suffering in the wake of not one but two cars, and also probably not wanting to get in too much of a battle. It's just every time that Skurlock has a nibble at Crowder, it kind of slows him down a little bit, that it brings Foster back in touch. But at the moment, these top three definitely just driving away from everybody else.
Yep, 24-7 last time by for Crowder. 24.78 for Skurlock and a 25.0 for Foster. In fact, 3/10 off them. 24.9 for Purnell, so he's slowly edging towards James Foster for third place. Nothing for these top two drivers yet, though.
No, absolutely not.
We're on lap 51. Just takes you back to the old Facebook event, Area 51. Are you going to get involved in that, Edward?
Oh, let's see. Am I going to fly all the way to America to get shot? No, I'll probably stay home.
You got to bet how many people turn up. You got 1.5 million people that reckon they're going. I reckon about 5 people show.
Yeah, I'd say in between 5 and 10 people show up, and of those, they either get arrested, shot, or they just decide it's not a good idea after all. But yeah, fun times we live in.
Fun times we live in. But while people are on the internet, while there's people on the internet being weird and doing stuff like that, we're on here calling iRacing and having a good time. We love iRacing and hope more people get involved in it. Some exciting things happening for the iRacing scene soon. I know you're not a huge fan of the Supercar, Edward, but the Supercars official E-Series coming to iRacing in just a couple months' time. That's going to be exciting to see. I know there's a few drivers already announced for that series on the roadside. Ethan Grigol and Ian Ford announced for Boost Mobile, the first team to announce their drive lineup for the E-Series. I'm excited for that one. You're not a huge fan of the Supercar, Edward, but you're going to be keeping an eye on how that one pans out?
Yeah, certainly. I think every sim racer worth his salt is definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. And of course, they're making strides all around the world at the moment. There's the Peak Antifreeze Series had its first race on mainstream TV. It actually ran on NBC the other day as well. So no longer restricted just to streaming online. It's actually getting coverage on mainstream television channels now, as I would probably expect will happen with the official V8 Supercar Series also in time. So exciting times in sim racing all around the world.
Well, I'm not sure if you know already, but the Supercars E-Series is actually going to be broadcast on prime time on, I believe it is Tuesday nights on Fox Sports. So we are going to see televised iRacing here in Australia. 7:30 to 9:30, I believe it will be, Tuesday nights for the Supercars E-Series, so look out for that one on Foxtel.
Yeah, it's fantastic, isn't it? I didn't actually know that, but good to know it's actually happening. And of course, it's going to just assist anything that requires. Everything grows with wider exposure, doesn't it? And of course, once you've got the exposure, the sponsors want to buy in, and of course, it just promotes the growth of the whole thing. So, only good news for all of us involved in sim racing, whether or not it's at the very highest levels, like those guys, or a little bit of the lower levels, like certainly myself as at Ryan. I don't know about you.
Yeah, exposure is brilliant, and as it goes, iRacing or esports, motor racing is one of the smallest esports out there. We see mega events happening around the world, certainly in Asia as well, with games like Rainbow Six Siege, which I'm a huge fan of myself. I don't know about you, Edward. And games like World of Warcraft and all those sorts of ones have a huge following and huge turnouts to live events, and they get up to a couple 100,000 views per match. So it would be fantastic to see iRacing reach that level of exposure.
Yeah, I actually heard a while ago that somebody who was very well connected in the esports scene sort of saying, why do you believe that that racing has sort of yet to take off in the same sort of way, and I had no idea that it was. I thought that it was sort of leading the way, so obviously I haven't been paying too much attention to some of the other tournaments that are going on around the place, but certainly it's something that's growing all the time and really becoming a much more credible feeder into top level professional real life motorsport for some of these guys. So good to see, and good to be able to be a part of it, albeit a very small part. But just keeping an eye on the actual action that's taking place on track. Ashton Crowder out to a 1.9 second lead now, so he's really managing those tyres quite well on this longer run, keeping ahead of Skurlock, as we say, 1.9 seconds to the good, and it's another couple of seconds back to James Foster. He's 3.8 seconds off the lead at the moment, and looks as though Chris Purnell is slowly catching him.
Yeah, Purnell's found a bit of pace now in relativity to the leaders. He's lapping about the same as them now. So we'll see whether that that trend continues, and eventually he may end up lapping quicker than the leaders. I should mention, if we go off on a tangent like that, it is because there is literally nothing happening on track to commentate on. And if there is something, we will definitely go back to the action for you guys. But it's one of those races right now. There's not much going on at the moment.
Well, if we still had any cars left, it might have had a little bit more going on. But unfortunately, we've really only got these 5 guys here that are on the lead lap, and Matthew Kloot, who's still lapping 7 laps down at the moment, still getting around. He's a bit off the pace. I was saying earlier on, it looked as though his car was quite straight, but obviously a little bit of performance deficit there for him, because he's certainly not that much slower as a driver, as we saw earlier on. And then we've got Fitzroy Beaumont, who's still just doing his lap-by-lap tour in and out of the pits. The thing still looks absolutely awful to drive, but he might just be trying to keep lapping away and bring it home. So certainly an exercise in determination for him. But those 7 guys are the only guys we've got on track, so that's all we've got to talk about.
Yeah, what I might do is I might pop down into one of the team channels and see if I can convince maybe Mirko Dortnack or someone to come up for an interview. Talk to us a bit about the struggles at the start of this race, but bear with me, I'll be a couple of seconds.
Absolutely, no problem. So while Ryan toddles off to try and get somebody to join us up here in the commentary box, I'll just keep you up to date with where we're at the moment as far as the racing goes. And it does look as though probably the closest battle that's going to be developing in the next few laps, and it's maybe a couple of laps away yet, is Foster versus Purnell. Of course, Purnell is on those fresh tyres. He's got fuel burning off now as well. And I believe he's just sort of slowly starting to reel in James Foster. So that's probably where we're going to get our most likely action. It looks as though Skurlock's fairly solid there in second place, and Foster doesn't seem to be able to do too much about him, and nobody seems to be able to do too much about Crowder. It looks as though Crowder's actually carrying a little bit of damage on that outside front wing as well. I'm not sure if he's given the wall a quick tap or something. I certainly haven't seen him get together, but we've just got Foster heading down pit road now, so it might be, we've really had apart from Purnell, he's the first one to blink of those leading runners. Not sure if he feels like his tyres are going off or whether he's just trying a bit of an undercut. I wouldn't be surprised to find out it's the latter.
Breathe, Edward. Right as I found a friend to bring in for a chat, I got Mirko Dortnack up here. We've got something happening out in track. It is only a pit stop, so we'll touch on that. James Foster making the stop. We'll let you know if something goes wrong there. But while we've got him up here, Mirko, what's your take on the absolute carnage at the start of this one?
Yeah, my take. Yeah, I only really got to the first corner. Pretty disappointed actually, but it's good to see the guys who are out there have finally got a clean race to go on with.
Yeah, it's disappointing to see, and it's not what we want to see for a race, but what do you think the main factor is that sort of brought this about?
Oh, it's hard to say. I mean, the incidents that we had, I mean, it just guys running too close together, really, and it's really hard to say. I'm really not sure. Sometimes this happens. Unfortunately, no one really likes to see a whole field taken out, but yeah, that's really all I got to say about that, really. I don't really know.
It's just one of those things, I guess, and it's unfortunate. It's a shame to see you back there. Unfortunately for you, scored in last place, 69 laps down. Is there any hope for you to get back out on track? maybe get a couple laps back and gain a couple spots?
No, I've got absolutely no hope of getting out there. After I flipped 6 times, I got told that the boys aren't going to fix it back in the pits, so I'm out watching the rest of the race. So yeah, unfortunately not today.
How
Not
bad
my
is the
night.
aero push, Mirko?
Oh, in practice, yeah, it's horrible. So I guess that's why the boys have really spread out now. They're all holding their positions. If you're within a second from a car in front to about 1.5 seconds, you get a lot of push out of the corner. It's a big deal. So that doesn't really help the racing either. But I guess it's just the conditions that we have to run with. So
Yeah, I mean, we've seen all the accidents, just about all the accidents which have taken place today have been somebody trying an overtaking move and then actually just not being able to keep the nose down and washing up into the car on the outside. And we've seen that happen several times. There's only been a couple of cautions caused by somebody actually rotating, which appeared to be what happened to Josh Carroll Walden when it happened in front of you. But, I mean, is that something that you found out in practice as well, the overtaking people and really keeping that nose down and getting a good enough drive off the corner to actually affect a passing manoeuvre is as difficult as it's been made to look?
yeah, it was pretty hard in practice, because that's the only that's the only time I had a chance to run behind people. Yeah, it was hard. If you had similar tires, similar tire runs, you could just only really stay behind the guy and wait for him to make a mistake to get a run on him, really, because of the push.
10-4.
We've just seen a pit stop for Ashton Crowder here just come in. We've seen it's a tricky name, that one. Ducati and McCarthy make a pit stop as well. He's gone 2 laps down. He'd just been laps on track before he made his pit stops. That's why he's now 2 down. Foster is a lap down, but he'll get this back with Crowder making his stop. Michael Skurlock now left is the only car yet to make a pit stop. And as I say that, we see Mirko Dortonak's teammate in the red highlighted car come in. And that releases Chris Purnell into the lead of the race. You got any insight, and Chris Purnell is going to come into the pit stop as well. I was going to ask you, Dornak, do you have any knowledge on whether Purnell may be staying out after making that pit stop during the caution period? But I guess not.
No, well, he pitted on that last caution period, so he had a little bit extra fuel. I wasn't quite sure how much extra fuel, but obviously a lap extra. So
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Was it a miscommunication? Was it a mistake? Why did Purnell decide to come in and we saw no one else with him?
he was just running a strategy. He was running to a lap number, so he decided to come in.
All right, fair enough. Hopefully for Purnell, he's probably the fastest car on track. Once he gets to the lead of the race, he's got clean air. He's just struggling a bit at the moment now that he's lost that jack position. Crowder's sort of gapped everyone now, and he's going to come out roughly about 3 or 4 seconds behind Foster, but he's going to come out right in front of Skurlock, and they may even end up side by side through 3 and 4. They almost do. Skurlock looks to the high side, but Purnell looks like he's jumped his teammate in the pit stop phase there.
And let's not forget about the power of the undercut as well, because Foster has overtaken Michael Skurlock in that, and Skurlock has dropped 2 positions from 2nd all the way down to 4th.
Yep, bit of a poor pit stop phase for Skurlock there. And Mirko, you got anything you want to get off your chest, or before we let you?
No, not really. I mean, I just hope these guys can run it clean till the end, and wish everybody good luck in what's left in the race, really.
All right, well, thank you for coming up here and having a chat and keeping us company, Mirko. I wish you luck for the rest of the season, the next couple of races, and I look forward to seeing you back out on track next.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks, boys.
All right, that was Mirko Dornak. Come on and have a chat with us, and we saw during the pit stop phase, as we mentioned, good stop for Foster and good stop for Purnell.
Yeah, that undercut's worked really well for Foster in particular. So he's actually taken on that 2nd place behind Ashton Crowder now. And I believe, sort of by my calculations, I'll be looking at one further stop to get them to the end of this one. We are on just starting lap 81 now, I believe, 82. Starting lap 82. And of course, we've got 140 laps, so not We are tuning them off. We're ticking those laps off and running green now, as we mentioned. Just while we were talking to Mirko, Fitzroy Beaumont has finally cried enough and taken that car behind the wall, deciding that that's never going to get fixed to his satisfaction. So we do have 6 cars remaining. One of those cars, Matthew Clute Foster, is just lapping right now. He's sitting there 9 laps down, unfortunately for him, but he'll still get a good haul of points if he's able to bring it home in 6th position.
Yeah, just trying to work out how long we have left in the race. I'm just having a look back, so I'm not really paying attention to what you're saying. But unfortunately, I'm just having a look
Who
at
is?
the.
That was
I'm
a joke.
I didn't get it. Sorry. I'm having a look back through the lap times to see when that last caution period ended, and then when they came in for their pit stop. Lap 39, they went back green, and Ashton Crowder pitted on lap 76, so that is a 37 lap stint. So yeah, we'll have probably 1 stop left in this race after they go green.
All right, so that's something to keep an eye on anyway. Not sure that there's going to be too many guys needing to play with their fuel maps to actually make it home at this stage. So we've got a little bit of a, I guess, close running cars, close-ish between Foster, Purnell and Skurlock. It looks as though those 2 Illusion cars might have a slight pace advantage over Foster, as we saw earlier on, but whether or not it's actually sufficient to break through that turbulent air barrier that Mirko was talking about and get up and actually make a move on him, I'm not sure. So it's going to come down to who's the most wily with their pit stops if we run green to the end, I believe.
Yep, all about making the undercut work. You don't want to pit too early and leave yourself short in the field. But it looks like the tyre drop-off isn't too bad in terms of lap times. They started the stint, a personal best of James Foster at least, for 24.612. The lap before he pitted, he did a... where's the pit stop? I can't find the pit stop. he was only doing 24.7s. So the 24.8s, 24.9s, 25.0. The drop-off isn't too bad. It's only a couple tenths of a second, so I don't think the tyre wear is going to be a huge factor, which may allow someone to pit the very first lap they are able to and really use that undercut.
Yeah, what we're seeing at the moment is Foster's actually sort of just coming into that 1.5 second barrier behind the lapped car of Ryan Takati and McCarthy, and that has allowed Purnell to close right up behind him because he's no longer running in that fresh air anymore, and Purnell looks as though he's just weaving around in the mirrors a little bit, just trying to annoy James Foster, running a higher turn-in point through the turn to try and accelerate out of it and pull as much momentum as he can right up onto the back of that blue number 14 in front of him. And it's going to be annoying Foster that he's not really able to make too many inroads at the moment on Takati and McCarthy as Purnell goes for the move down the inside. He hasn't got any overlap yet, and you could just see from that exactly how hard it is to get this move done, because Purnell had a really good run there coming off of turn 2 and wasn't able to push the advantage coming into 3 and 4. So it looks as though Purnell very, very keen to get by, but whether or not he can actually manage it cleanly is another story altogether.
Yeah, and the longer he stays in behind Foster here, the closer Skurlock gets in his mirrors as well. He might be close enough for a lunge up the inside at turn number 3. He does make the lunge up the inside, doesn't wash up into the side of him. Oh no, I spoke too soon. A little bit of a hip check there. The right rear makes contact with the left front of James Foster's car. They both escape without getting into the wall. Thank goodness for that. But I spoke too soon. He washed up right at the critical point, right on exit.
Yeah, Foster's going to be annoyed with that too. He will be.
Foster will be a bit annoyed. I think Purnell will be a bit of annoyed of himself there too. I don't know whether it was a case of Purnell coming up the track or maybe Foster came down a bit lower than he expected. But either way, the move is done for Purnell. He's through into second place in this race. 9 seconds off Ashton Crowder, and James Foster slots back into third now.
Yeah, he does. And just after that all happened, he came under a little bit of pressure from Skurlock as well, but managed to fend that off. So now he's kind of settled back into what's a fairly comfortable looking third place. Whether or not he's got any pace to go back and have another nibble at Purnell, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it at the moment because he wasn't able to really make any inroads on the lapped car of Takati McCarthy at that stage, whereas Purnell was able to really close up through that dirty air onto the back of him. So probably just a little bit of oval experience showing there on the part of Purnell.
Yes, certainly. Just trying to have a look at whether now that he's got by Foster, does he have the pace over Ashton Crowder, who last time by 24.7. Chris Purnell 24.9, so not quite yet, but he did in fact have to deal with that lapse car with Ducati McCarthy. Hey, I got it right. So we'll probably see a better gauge this time by as to the pace for Purnell in comparison to our race leader, Ashton Crowder, going off turn number 4, running right up against that wall. As much track use as possible, 25.0, 3/10 down on Crowder still.
Yeah, now we're running under green this race, absolutely flying by. We're on lap 95 now. And Purnell, yeah, just sort of settling in. It'd be nice to think that he would be able to get up there and maybe have a crack at Crowder, give us a nice battle for the lead, but which is something which has been a bit lacking in this series so far in the first 3 rounds. Is a really strong battle over the lead. But in any case, Purnell just sort of working on it. He is just sort of chipping that gap down, but whether he's able to get there by the end of the race, I'm not sure. Maybe an undercut might work well for him.
Yeah, of course, with oval racing, something we don't see in road racing is the cautions which are implemented with the racing system. They can have a caution period, as we've seen tonight. We've had many cautions already, and it can close the field up and really change the face of the race, which doesn't happen on a road course unless you throw them manually. And right now, I wouldn't mind a caution, because it would really have a good battle for the lead.
Yeah, we certainly would, but we're just having a look at Foster versus Skurlock. Skurlock's having a bit of a run at Foster. Foster seems to be, just as Skurlock gets underneath him, we want to give it some space because he knows he's going to wash up. He does that, and they come out of the turn side by side, but Foster seems to really be struggling in the dirty air of Ducati and McCarthy. He still hasn't managed to actually clear that lapped car. And it's every time he sort of gets close to that lap car in front of him is when he falls back into the clutches of first Purnell and now Skurlock. So he really does seem to be struggling with that dirty air, as we see Skurlock look for that alternate line there, getting the clean air onto the front wing and driving straight around the outside of Foster there. So once again, the oval experience showing.
That was a beautiful move from Michael Skurlock, using that clean air to power around the outside of him. And I dare say we'll see him close up onto the back of Ducati McCarthy and get by him with relative ease, which is something that Foster, as you mentioned, he's not quite being able to do right now.
Yeah, he does seem to be suffering in it, doesn't he? I mean, I've had a bit of a chat with him sort of in the week leading up to this and tried to tell him the importance of keeping the clean air onto that nose as much as possible. And we saw a perfect example of that there when Skurlock has just run to the outside of him, made sure he had some nice, clean, straight air going across that nose at the point of turn-in. And he was able to just drive straight around the outside of Foster there. I think Foster may have not wanted to fight that too much as well. He's very much, with Hamilton missing around, Foster second in the championship, he's very much got his mind on that championship as well, knowing that Hamilton's likely to be missing a few rounds of this series. So I don't think he's going to be that fast falling behind Skurlock and Purnell. They are a few points behind him in the championship at the moment. He won't want to give spaces to him all the time because he'll wind up getting caught. But tonight, on something that's not his specialty, I think he'll be happy to roll home in fourth if he can't do any better than that.
Yeah, he'll be happy with that, I think, and maybe the advice you gave him wasn't that fantastic, Edward.
Oh, it's entirely possible. I generally ruin everybody I get involved with, including family. So, blame me for it.
Poor Foster. Poor James. Imagine having to take advice from Edward. I tell you, I'm at my limit commentating with Edward. He's got that voice that just makes you want to just take your headset off and walk away.
Grating, isn't it? Grating,
grating.
I think, is the way it's actually been mostly described.
I just jested there. You're all right.
Of course, we have reached that point in the race where there's not a lot of cars out there. There's not a huge amount going on. And so Ryan just starts taking pops. So, that's okay. That's okay. I'm here to inform and entertain in equal measure. So we'll just continue on as we are.
I'm sorry, Edward. If I take the piss out of you, it means I like you, okay? That's how that works.
Oh, that's how we roll. That's how Australians roll, as far as I'm concerned.
And it's one of those races again. There's nothing happening right now. 11.7 seconds Crowder's opened that gap up to Chris Purnell now, as Michael Skurlock will finally get by Ducati McCarthy up the inside at turn 3 and 4. Easy move there. He's 3 seconds back from Purnell, and he's opened up 2 seconds already to James Foster. Matthew Cloet has fallen to 11 laps off the lead of this race. So yeah, as you said, he's got no pace in that car. He's dropped a further 6 laps since he was restarting in the 5 laps down, I believe he was earlier.
Yeah, he's not got a lot of pace in that car. I'm sure he's running absolutely as hard as it can be run, but the damage that he copped earlier on was quite significant. I'm surprised about how much pace he's been able to, how good the car actually still looks, but how little pace it's actually got. And I believe it's just running on board Crowder at the moment, our race leader, 12.2 seconds to the good over second place Chris Purnell, and he's just stroking away in the lead now, isn't he? It's all almost too easy at this stage.
Yeah, it's what we tend to see in this IndyCar series. We have someone. Last 2 weeks it's been Hamilton. This week it's going to be Ashton Crowder, as we so often see in the NASCAR competition. That just runs away with it, and we're on board with him. And you can just see down this main straight, up into 6th gear, across the start-finish line, tip it into turn 1 on the absolute limit of the car. Down to 4th gear he goes. Not going all the way down the track, trying to open up his steering as much as he can, but he doesn't want to take too much out of the tyre life there. Back up into 6th. And he's going to stay in 6th. Well, he's going to drop down to 5th gear, in fact, to head through 3 and 4. It's an interesting track at Motorsport Park. 3 and 4 a lot wider than 1 and 2, and you could almost take it flat out on fresh tyres in this IndyCar.
And we've got Foster coming to the pit lane, so it looks as though he's trying to make that magic undercut work for him again. We're on lap 109 of 140, and our fourth place driver, James Foster, having pulled towards the pits, and it looks as though Skurlock is actually, he's on pit road as well, so we actually missed that. He's actually come into the pits as well, so Foster's run into the pits could have actually been triggered by that, and unfortunately for Foster, Ducati McCarthy has pitted in front of him as well, and if he manages to get out in front of Foster, then Foster's going to be stuck with the same problem of running in the dirty air of that lapped car. So let's see how these guys actually come out of the pits. There's no reason to suggest that McCarthy is actually done with his stop. So he's coming down the lane now, and it looks as though he's going to slot right in front of Foster again. He does, and that's going to be the absolute last thing that he wanted to see. And while we've been watching, Purnell is in the pits as well, leaving Crowder pretty much out there alone at the moment.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what Crowder does here. You don't want to get caught in no man's land. You either want to respond to the undercut and pit straight away, or you go the complete opposite and pit with the and get the overcut done so you come home strong. It's just ripping off a quote I heard in Supercars today, but it certainly applies to this race though.
Yeah, it certainly does. And just while we were watching Purnell in the pits there, I believe Foster has cleared Ducati and McCarthy on the exit of pit lane. Just really got up underneath his rear wing, jinked to the outside, and made sure that he got past. And he'll be hoping that he doesn't have to deal with that car necessarily again, because he really, really struggled to get past it. And who knows whether he would have been able to get past it if he had the opportunity. Caution is out. Skurlock. Is that Michael Skurlock in the fence? It is. What has happened there?
Oh, it's disaster. I'm going to go back and have a look. I was just going to mention that Purnell was
lost it all alone.
Yeah, he's lost.
He's gone around all alone out of turn 4, just lost the rear and straight out into the fence, gives the wall a hefty whack for good measure. What an absolute disaster for Michael Skurlock.
I was just going to mention that if a caution came out, Purnell was 1 lap down, right in front of Crowder, the only car 1 lap down, and it would really change up this race. Purnell would get the lap back, Crowder would resume the race in second. I do believe we're going to see Foster get back on the lead lap here. And for Skurlock, in regards to him, middle of 3 and 4, he had a slight oversteer moment on the steering wheel. He opened up the steering just a bit, and then a few meters later, the car started to step out on him, and he just could not save it with this IndyCar up into the wall. He might escape with a little bit of a front wing change. I'm just trying to have a look. He's got a bit of steering damage as well, so that's unfortunate for Skurlock. It's going to put a bit of a damper on this race for him.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, that caution with the timing that it came out has really separated out this field. We did mention that Crowder, who is pitting now, was the only driver to have not pitted yet. So we're going to see everyone else stay out. So we're going to see Crowder come into the pit lane. I think we're going to see Purnell, Foster and Skurlock get their laps back, which is good news for the actual race itself. But of course, Crowder is going to be on those 1 or 2 lap fresher tyres than everybody else as well.
Just trying to work this out. So Purnell's going to be leading this race. He is behind Foster and Skurlock and Ducati and McCarthy. So that will in fact mean that Purnell will get his lap back, which is good news for him. Not Purnell, sorry. Foster will get his lap back, so that's good news for him. Skurlock, he will get his lap back if he stays out. If he comes in to make a pit stop and get that damage repaired, he's going to lose the lead lap. So, big decision to make for Skurlock there. He does, in fact, peel off towards the pit lane, and he will stay a lap down on this race. He'll pray for another caution later on this one. Ducati, and McCarthy will move to 1 lap down on this one. We're going to have a 4-3 car lead lap battle for this win with just 25 laps to go and resume racing.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in terms of championship implications as well, of course, we came into this race wondering who was going to be the drivers to prove their worth on both the oval and the road course. And for me, there's 3 at the moment. And that is Foster, Purnell, and you've got to put Crowder in that conversation as well, because he had such a great debut. First run out at a road course, first run out in the IndyCar, and came home in something like 3rd position, I think, in his first run out, and of course leading this one as well. So, yeah, in the absence of Gary Hamilton, looking at these guys, you'd have to say that trio are the ones who appear to be dealing with the multi-discipline racing we see in this series, best of everyone.
Yeah, Crowder's doing a fantastic job. Foster's doing all right. Purnell's obviously doing a fantastic job, of course. But with this race resuming, do you think we'll see another caution period? Do you think we'll see Skurlock back on the lead lap? He's now 2 laps down, in fact, so it looks like he's just staying in the pits to get that damage repaired. So he's out of the running for this one. That's a shame.
Yeah,
we'll see the lights come out this time by us.
Yeah, he's definitely not in the hunt for the victory anymore unless we get a couple of cautions and everybody else pits for some reason, which I don't think they're going to look to do anyway unless we get quite a few laps under green. The race is really winding down now. We're on lap 116, about to start lap 117. And just having a look at, as you say, pace cars, lights about to go out, and that means that these guys who are laps down are going to get released and are going to be able to come around to join the back of the pack again. They'll get the wave by. Foster gets the wave by. We're going to see Ducati and McCarthy and Purnell get that wave by as well, because Crowder has retained the lead of this race. And that's something that I believe that, we're going to have to see how it works out between Foster and Purnell. I believe Purnell's ahead of him, but we're just going to have to see how it works out. I'm a little bit confused at the minute.
I thought Purnell was going to be leading this race. I was wrong. Purnell is going to be spewing out, and he's Ducati and McCarthy. They're getting an absolute move on here. You don't want to get caught off the back of the 2-car train for the restart here. Michael Skurlock is back out on track 2 laps down. They're entering turn 3 now, are the 2 leaders. Foster's caught them. It looks like Ducati and McCarthy and Chris Purnell will catch them as well. Purnell's going to want to make quick work of Ducati and McCarthy off this restart. Crowder's got a buffer of Michael Skurlock in between him and James Foster. It's going to make it interesting with these 2 laps cars in the way of these leaders.
Yeah, certainly will. So, Foster's going to want to round up Skurlock as quickly as he can. Don't know how much damage Skurlock's actually carrying, but he wasn't able to get much done about Ducati and McCarthy, but Skurlock moves right out the way. And it appears as though James Foster has remained 1 lap down. So we thought he was going to get his lap back in all that. He hasn't done. And so that's going to keep him 1 lap away. So Purnell really has to clear Foster quite quickly.
Yes, Skurlock got out of the way. Foster forced his way to the outside of Ducati and McCarthy along the main straight to make the move done on him. Hopefully, for the sake of the race, we get a battle for the lead between Crowder and Purnell. He can clear James Foster shortly. He's got a few laps on these tyres and more than Crowder. That may be the difference, all the difference that Crowder needs to take this race.
Yeah, the other thing as well is Foster going to give way to Purnell? It doesn't look like he will at this stage. Of course, if Purnell gets a run on him, expect him to not fight it. You know, we don't expect lap down cars to be fighting, but he's under no obligation to move out the way. And of course, James is still going to consider that Purnell's a rival of his, whether they're on the same lap or not. So any damage that he can do to Purnell's race now is potentially good for him later on. But it looks as though Purnell is going to get that move done quite cleanly. James probably...
Oh, no, he's not!
Look,
contact and around
James has gone straight into the fence. And to be honest, I think he should have backed out of it there. That's a shame.
You've cursed him. You said he's going to get the move done cleanly, and he didn't. He didn't get
Yeah,
the
I
move done.
mean, I really thought that as soon as Purnell got down the inside of Foster, that Foster would back out of the throttle and give way. But he elected to hang in around the outside there, and that's the end result. So it's unfortunate because he was on for some good points there. He was sitting in third place, albeit a lap down. But I can't help feeling that he didn't necessarily need to fight that one.
Yeah, to try and defend James there, he didn't squeeze Purnell. He didn't fight it too hard. He just sort of stayed there, kept his own momentum up, and unfortunately, Purnell suffers the same fate we've seen so often tonight, car on the inside, up the track, up into the outside car. Thankfully, for the sake of the race, Purnell doesn't take any damage from it. Unfortunately for James, he takes a lot of damage from that. And he won't be finishing this one in third place. He'll probably finish this one about fifth, I'd suspect.
Yeah, still not a bad finish, really. I mean, considering what's going on. Hopefully, he hasn't got too much damage on that car to actually continue the race, because that's the danger that, of course, you get back to the pits and the crew are unable to fix anything. But even so, I mean, fifth place, I think Kloot's 24 laps down. I don't think there's enough. I think maybe Kloot is off the track, actually. Yeah, he's taking the car behind the wall. So the worst place that James is going to finish is actually going to be fifth, regardless of what happens from here. But we have seen our two leaders, Crowder and Purnell, come into the pit lane, exit together, nose to tail. So it really is between these two guys for the win. And you'd have to put, based on pace so far, you'd have to put your money on Crowder for the victory. But you never know. Purnell might be able to do something about it as well.
Ducati McCarthy and Michael Skurlock are both ahead of Ashton Crowder and Chris Purnell. They're going to get their lap back before we go back green. I'm having a look at Skurlock's car. It doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's got the damage repaired, and he might have some pace. I'm just trying to have a look at what lap times he was doing after that restart, and I'm going to take back my statement. A 25.0, it's a decent lap there, 27.0 to 56.2. So maybe he might have the pace. It'll be interesting to see. Ducati and McCarthy looks like he's struggled a bit. He does have a bit of damage on the front left of his car, so I don't think we'll see him fight them. But I think the battle is definitely going to be between Crowder and Purnell.
Yeah, just having a look down in the pit lane now as well. It looks like an absolute junkyard down there at the minute. There's so many bent cars sitting in there. We've only got 4 cars on track still running cleanly, which is a fairly abysmal record, to be perfectly honest. But just having a look at Foster's car, he sat down there in pit lane, and I cannot see his helmet still sat in that car. So I believe he's got out, so perhaps not thinking it worth looking to repair this one, and may just be content with the 5th position. So I don't think we're going to see Foster out there anymore tonight, and it's going to run between these 4. And just giving a shout out to Ducati and McCarthy as well. He's 1 lap down at the minute. He's going to get that lap back pretty soon, or is he 1 lap down regardless? I can't quite work it out. But in any event, he's still out there, and he's certainly not somebody who's run a great deal of ovals, as we mentioned earlier on. And certainly somebody whose experience level is not on the par with 3 guys, either 3 guys on track with him or many of the guys who are no longer on track with him. But he's out there. He's about to inherit 3rd place and having an absolutely cracking run. So keeping out of trouble and just lapping on his own and just doing his thing is paying dividends. And let's hope he can bring it home.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to retract my statement. I think Ducati and McCarthy and Scullop still be scored a lap down. Because, yeah, they are lapping in front of Crowder and Purnell and still being scored a lap down as it is. We saw Purnell earlier being scored as 1:14 behind Ashton Crowder and laps in front of him earlier, so that was why he ended up in lead lap, and we'll see Ducati and McCarthy Scullop back a lap down, but back in behind him. If another caution comes out, they may get back on the lead lap. But I don't want to put any money on another caution with only 4 cars left out there. This is going to be a good finish between Crowder and Purnell. Can they put on a grandstand finish between the only 2 cars left in this race?
I mean, would it be absolutely insane if these 2 came together and Skurlock, I'm not sure what his damage levels are like, but certainly he was involved in something earlier on, and Ducati and McCarthy was able to come away with a victory? Wouldn't that just be mental? I'm not wishing anything on any of the drivers remaining on track, of course, but just in terms of just the biggest Bradbury of all time, I think it'd have to be up there.
It'd certainly be interesting. Pace car peels off, restart. 15 laps to go. Crowder puts the foot down. Purnell tries to go with him. He's going to stick with him for now. He's not too far back. as they make their way down through 1 and 2 now. McCarty and McCarthy and Skurlock are back there 3rd and 4th, still a lap down as we suspect as they make their way down the back straightaway now.
Yeah, absolutely. Purnell doing his absolute best to put pressure on Crowder from the outset here. He knows this is the race. There's only a handful of laps left. He's had a quick car. He's been reasonably quick all night. They've been on slightly offset strategies.
There we
but
go.
Is he going to be good enough to get a move done? He's having a look. He's certainly having a look down inside there. And let's see if he's able to keep it down without washing up. He does wash up. Crowder does make an allowance for it, but of course manages to carry that extra momentum that you get from running the high line up and draw alongside Purnell once again. It's hard to think that on that bottom line, Purnell's not going to get this done. And hopefully these guys don't come together. But Purnell slots into the lead there. He's going to jink out of the way to try and stop Crowder taking advantage of the draft, and Crowder just running that high line as he probably does so often in the stock cars. But that is a genuine change for the lead there. Purnell taking the lead away from Ashton Crowder at this point.
Great move from Chris Purnell. He had the awareness to cover that inside line as well, back into turns 1 and 2. Forced Crowder back to the outside, and Crowder unable to get the move back as Purnell almost whacked the wall off turn 4. Is Crowder close enough for a move? He lunges up the inside of turn 1. Can't quite get too far alongside Purnell. Not going to get the move done there. Slots back into the draft. I think we're going to see a good finish between these guys as Purnell tries to make the draft down the back straight away. Crowder doesn't opt to follow it. His contempt for the draft he's getting right now takes a different line to Purnell, almost gets into him. Purnell up the track, and now Crowder gets to the inside, down the main straightaway, side by side again for the lead of the race with 11 laps to go. Into 1 and 2, Crowder on the inside, trying to make the move done. He can't get it done, and he actually falls quite a way behind Purnell coming off turn 2. Great run from Purnell, and he breaks that draft down the back straight.
Yeah, that high line seems like a really good defensive tactic at the moment, doesn't it? Certainly the momentum that you're able to pull off the turns, especially 1 and 2, running that high line, really seems to be beneficial. Just while we were watching the leaders, understandably so, Michael Skurlock has actually made that move on Ryan Ducati and McCarthy and taken away that 3rd place. So I bet you when he was facing backwards in the wall, he didn't think he'd be finishing 3rd tonight, but he's on to do exactly that. But Purnell now putting a little bit of a gap on Crowder. Let's see if Crowder's got anything for him.
I think if there's anyone in this field tonight that can challenge the leader after being overtaken for the leader, it will be Ashton Crowder. So much experience, so much knowledge to build upon and to rely on to try and get this lead back. But right now, Purnell's doing what he needs to do. He's got about a half a second lap back to Crowder in 2nd place. And at the moment, it looks like Crowder's losing a bit of time to Purnell.
And as far as the battle for 3rd goes, it doesn't look as though Ducati and McCarthy's actually given up on that. Oh, Skurlock's around. Skurlock has gone around. And this time it is day done for Michael Skurlock. He has gone straight into the wall. No caution yet, though. He's gone straight into the wall coming out of 4, looped it all on his own and smacked the outside wall very, very hard indeed, and has actually taken that car behind the wall, which has given Ducati and McCarthy that 3rd place.
Yeah, I'm very surprised not to see a caution there. I'm a little disappointed not to see a caution there as well. We would have set up about a 1 or 2 lap dash to the end. Of course, no green-white checkered in IndyCar competition, so if a caution comes out in a couple laps time, it will end the race, which is not what we're going to see. At the moment, it's still Purnell from Crowder from the only other car on track, Ducati and McCarthy, 1 lap down. We joked at the start of the race, before the broadcast, about 3 cars finishing this race, and unfortunately, it looks like that's going to be the case.
I wish I put some money on it now.
Yeah, I know.
It was just a throwaway line, of course, and we'd only get 3 cars running at the end, but that's exactly what's happened. And of those 3 cars, it really doesn't look as though now, with just coming up to 5 laps to go, it doesn't look as though that Crowder necessarily has anything for Purnell, unless he's going to put on one big push. But you almost think that if he had the pace to run with him, he would have used it by now, which is means that Purnell doing a really, really solid job out the front to beat the pro, and looks as though he may be able to bring home this victory. I'm going to say may, because I don't want to put the knockers on anybody.
Yeah, Crowder a 10th of a second quicker last time by, but it's not going to be enough. The gap is 0.5 of a second. There's 4 laps to go as they come across the start-finish line again. This time by, the advantage goes to Chris Purnell in terms of lap time.
Yeah, absolutely. It really does look as though Purnell is feeling more comfortable, especially out there running in the clean air like he was at the start of the race, if you remember that. Running out there in the clean air. It looks as though Crowder's just not got enough. If he has got any kind of pace advantage at all, I'm not believing that he does. But if he did, he'd find it probably too hard to break through that barrier of dirty air running in behind the number 92. So it looks as though Purnell just with the advantage at the moment, lap 138 of 140 now, so only a few more turns to go, and he's going to cross the line for his first win of the season. He's going to be very, very happy about that.
Yep, 2 laps to go here at Gateway Motorsports Park for round 3 of the Allusion Events iCart series. It's been an interesting race to say the least. Absolute carnage up and down the field. Some big names finishing a long way down the order. Guys like Dave Douglas, Mirko Dornak, guys we expect to see up the front fighting for the race win, going to finish 135 odd laps down on this race, which is a big shame for them as Chris Bennell takes the white flag. It looks like he's going to answer our question. Who's going to be the man to step up with the absence of championship leader Gary Hamilton? It is going to be the series owner, the series organizer, the guy that brought all of this together, did a fantastic job behind the scenes to get it working, get it going. And now he's done a fantastic job on the track to take his first win of the series from Ashton Crowder in second.
Yeah, fantastic job, and fantastic job for Ryan Ducati and McCarthy coming home in third position after all of that. And what I might do, I can't actually see him down in the Discord to pop up for an interview, but I'd very much like to talk to him. So after everybody comes into the pits, if you'd like to possibly handle the interviews initially, Ryan, and I'll go off in search of the other Ryan to see if we can actually bring him up for a little bit of a chat.
Yeah, no worries. Good to see Chris Purnell here down this main straight. See if he gets any burnouts going here. I've just alt-tabbed out of the game so I can no longer see him. There we go. There he is. Across the start finish line, chucks in a few joeys on the black and white checkers, celebrating a well-earned victory and a race of an absolute attritional race, that one. Crowder and McCarthy making up second and third, the only other finishers in this race. Fourth place goes to Michael Skurlock, 10 laps down. James Foster finishes fifth. Clowett, first time from the first 2 races of the season, turns his form around with another crash, but still finishes 6th place. Fitzroy Beaumont home in 7th, Mick Boyce in 8th, Katakazinas in 9th, Michael Aaron Smith will take 10th place. Williams, Douglas, Carol Walden, Bruce Barnes, Anton, and Dornak round out the field with 11th place through to 16th place there as Purnell finishes up his donuts. Let's drag him up here and congratulate him on a race well done. Chris Purnell, Ryan Jones up in the Performance East streaming booth. Congratulations, mate. You got your first win of the season.
Cheers, buddy.
Well, it was an absolute race of attrition, that one. 3 finishes only in that race, which is a bit of a shame. But certainly for yourself, you kept yourself out of trouble. And that was the key to this one. Although we still have one incident with James Foster. Bit of an unfortunate one, that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was a little bit frustrated with him, to be honest with you. He was a lap down, and I don't know why he was racing me that hard, and he just come across on me, and I had nowhere to go. I was as low as I possibly could. So yeah, I don't like wrecking people, but that's part of racing sometimes, and yeah, he shouldn't have been doing that. So a little bit disappointed.
Well, I'm sure you're thankful not to come away with that many damage, because that would have been a real damper on your efforts. And what do you see as the biggest factor for the reason why only 3 cars finish this race?
I think a lot of guys went hard pretty early and made mistakes from what I could see during the race. It's a little bit disappointing to have only 3 cars finish, especially considering this was our biggest field that we've had to date. But yeah, I just think guys weren't really considering how long the race were, and they were racing overly aggressive way too early in the race. To have, I think it was 6 cautions in the first 37 laps is a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a bit. We had a chat to Mirko Dornak throughout that race at one point, and asked him the same question. We had a response along the lines of aero understeer. Did you feel that the aero push was quite prevalent in today's race?
No, not really. To be honest with you, it's all about just managing and lifting earlier to make sure the car turns. It's not really that hard to manage it. A lot of guys just get caught out by it. It's no different to driving the cup car. You just got to lift a little bit to get the car to be under.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And certainly as the race winner, I would probably take your advice on that one. Um, you drove a very good race. I was going to ask Edward if he had any questions for you. He's just come back now. Have you got any questions for Chris, Edward?
Not too many. Just congratulations on an excellent victory. I mean, having to make that overtake at the end, we saw quite a lot of guys really struggling with the overtaking tonight. So, I mean, was that something that you always believed that you were going to be able to get done at the end, given how difficult overtaking was looking for everyone?
Yeah, I did quite a bit of practice this week in traffic, so I knew what the car was capable of, and I knew where I sort of had to release the mark or be on a line to be able to make it work. So I kind of knew it was there all along, and I knew I had speed from the quality lap, obviously, and then throughout the start of the run. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have taken that pit stop at lap 35, I think it was, because that kind of put me on the back foot. But then when I realised, I sort of started to save a bit of fuel to see if I could shorten that last pit stop. And it kind of worked for me because at least it kept me able to be on the lead lap when the caution came out right near the end there. So, and it just played into my hand. And me and Ashton both on fresh tyres, I knew that I'd have a pretty decent crack at him. And yeah, I was pretty lucky. It was a good race with him. And it's pretty cool to beat somebody like that who is obviously regarded as a pretty talented oval racer.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, and thanks very much.
Cheers, buddy.
Oh, just before you leave, any shout outs?
Just a shout out to all the boys in Allusion Motorsport. And yeah, that's about it, really. You guys up in the booth at Performance A Streaming. Yeah.
Not sure the Chris was done or the Chris dropped out there, but either way, congratulations, Chris. You drove a good race, you kept out of trouble, and you were there when it mattered. So, congrats. Go celebrate with the guys down in the Allusion channel, and we'll talk to you later.
Cheers, boys.
Guys.
Sorry, it looks like I was just chucking Purnell out, and I managed to chuck you out as well. So sorry about that, Ryan. But anyway, we might grab in our second place getter, Ashton Crowder.
All right. I guess I'll take this one too then. Ashton Crowder, Ryan Jones up here in the booth. Congrats, mate. Second place. It looks like you might have had the win in the bag at one point, but that late caution really put a big sting on the step for your challenge for the win.
Yeah, it definitely did. To be honest, I was more worried that I had to make one more pit stop, but I was really worried that I would spin on the apron because on that one green flag pit stop, I almost spun on the apron and somehow caught it. And yeah, that was pretty lucky, but it was fun. It felt like driving the cup car, which is pretty funny to say, but it felt like driving the cup car with, it has like a weird snap on exit, and it felt familiar, but this Gateway's a really hard track. It's a driver's track, as they say, and really showed because if you did something wrong, you're spinning, and yeah, that created a really great challenge.
Well, we saw you leading the race off the restart, and we saw you get past the lead of the race off the restart.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back on it, do you feel there's anything you could have done differently to maybe keep the lead away from Chris?
Honestly, as soon as he passed me, my first thought was, what could I have done there better? And maybe it's just a lack of, or it's a, just an experience thing. But honestly, I don't really think I could have done much more. If I pinched him, I probably would have gotten hit with a huge thing of net coat and would have went flying like Graham Bolin did in that Ants car New Hampshire race. So that wouldn't have been too fun. Would have been exciting, but not for me. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how you're supposed to race with these things if like getting close is an option sort of deal because like I don't really watch IndyCar racing in real life. or yeah, in real life. So I don't really know what the I guess procedures and all that are, but yeah, I probably could have pinched him or something. But I would rather finish second than wreck. That yeah, wrecking isn't fun.
And it certainly isn't. I mean, something we saw with the majority of the field today. I've asked this to two drivers already, but I'm really interested to see what you thought as a predominantly NASCAR driver. Did you feel the understeer behind other cars? The aero push was a factor in today's race, and the outcome of the race being three cars finishing.
Do you want the honest answer?
Yes.
Okay, it was pretty bad. When I was out front, I was able to run really, really fast laps, but when I was behind somebody, it was the complete opposite. So yeah, the dirty air was really bad, or not really bad, but bad enough. Not really in 3 and 4, but in 1 and 2, with the banking and how you basically have to run the middle, or else you'll hit a bunch of bumps and go straight, which that was weird. Um, the dirty air was pretty incredible. It kind of felt like driving like NASCAR car with, going like 180 in the corners. It was pretty interesting, but you could put your left side down or like underneath somebody and it would kind of neutralize that feeling, but it definitely was there, yeah.
Okay, no problems at all. Well, congratulations very much on the second place, Ashton. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
For sure. Chris for putting on the league because it's really fun. Like I can't wait until we get like really, really, really stout car counts in this because like it's fun even with like 15 or so people. So if we can get some more, it'd really, really be a good time. Um, but yeah, Burton Kligerman, esports, Steady MD, your personal doctor, online period. You guys for the broadcast and just everybody that makes it happen. It's really fun. I stayed up all night to race this, and I'm hoping I don't fall asleep during the day because of it. But yeah, it's definitely worth it for the time being.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. There's your second place getter, Ashton Crowder, everyone. And he's acquitting himself pretty well with these Indy cars, it must be said. So we've got now an interview for probably somebody who's quite surprised to be up here in third place after running around sort of back and mid-pack a lot of the night, but managed to bring it home in a well-deserved third position. Bringing it home when so many others actually fell by the wayside. It's going to be Ryan Takati McCarthy. So we'll just grab him in for a quick chat. Ryan, third place. Talk us through it.
Not quite sure what to say, really. Bit of luck, I guess. Managed to dodge most of the incidents, but very, very happy to have been included in the race, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, fantastic. So, when was the point that you started to think that you may be on for a really good finish here? Because I know, sort of going into the race, perhaps you say yourself that you haven't had a great deal of experience on the ovals and we're just looking to keep it clean. But as the race went on and more people started to fall away, when was the point that you started to think to yourself that you might be in for a really promising result?
I'd say it was probably close to the midway point when we started to drop down quite low. I felt I was definitely in for a top 10, but not on a top 3, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, at the end, of course, you were on the same lap as Michael Skurlock, and Skurlock's got past you and then promptly spun off up into the wall. I mean, how close were you to actually getting collected in that?
Actually, pretty close. I'd say there was only probably a good meter between his front wing and my front right. I saw his rear step out and managed to pull out of the throttle just before I did collect him, but not sure what happened there. But was lucky enough to get away with it.
Yeah, well, fantastic drive anyway. So, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to before we let you go celebrate?
I'll shout out to the RCD boys. They're helping me get through the inaugural changes and getting used to racing more. But thanks to you guys for broadcasting, and thanks to Chris for allowing me to race.
All right, fantastic stuff. So that is your third place getter, a very happy Ryan Takati and McCarthy. Bringing it home in third, one lap down, but brought it across the line when so many others fell by the wayside. So excellent job from him. So we're just going to have to finish off the broadcast there. I believe that's pretty much all we've got to cover off. We'll give you a quick rundown of the championship points as they stand at the moment, because we've had some fairly big changes after that fairly chaotic race, and Ryan Jones has just actually had a couple of computer issues, so I'm just going to run you through this before we say goodnight. So our top 10 in the championship: Gary Hamilton retains, despite not competing tonight, retains his position on top of the table, but his lead has been slashed down to 6 points in front of Chris Purnell. James Foster drops to third position, only 1 point away from Purnell. Then we got Ashton Crowder, Michael Skurlock, Dave Douglas drops all the way down to 6th place. Ryan Ducati McCarthy, our third place getter, pulls up to 7th in the championship ahead of Mick Boyst, Mike Aaron Smith, and Josh Carroll Walden, rounding out the top 10. So essentially, that is all we've got here for you. So I hope you enjoyed that one. Very chaotic, but we're probably going to get a little bit more chaos next time out, of course, because we are at Detroit, surrounded by concrete walls, to actually greet the drivers and provide a bit of a challenge, that bumpy street course there in Detroit, Belle Isle. And, of course, join us later on the week, Thursday night as well, for the ANSCAR Cup Series from Kentucky. So from myself, Edward Foster, and Ryan Jones, and Matt Hunter, of course, as always, doing a great job. We're bringing all the pictures out to you. Thank you very much, and good night.